I expected Sadie Whitlock to scream when she opened the door. Maybe cry a little. Maybe punch me in the arm for not telling her I was home from Spain 3 weeks early. If I was lucky, she'd hug me so hard my carry-on would roll backward down the hallway and take out somebody's Amazon package. What I did not expect was for my best friend of 12 years to look at me standing in the bright Saturday morning sun outside her apartment, drop her coffee mug onto the welcome mat, whisper my name like she'd been holding it under her tongue for a year, and kiss me. Not a polite kiss, not a cute little mistake on the cheek because she was half asleep. Sadie stepped straight into me, grabbed the front of my jacket with both hands, rose onto her toes, and kissed me like there was no friendship to protect, no careful line between us, no ocean I had just crossed, and no years of pretending we didn't both notice when the room got too quiet. For about 4 seconds, my entire brain went dark. Then it came back online with one clear thought. Oh, so that's what missing someone can feel like when it finally has nowhere left to hide. My name is Caleb Turner. I was 29 years old that morning, jet-lagged enough to forget my own zip code, and still holding a paper bag of airport cinnamon rolls because Sadie had once said, very seriously, that love was mostly just remembering someone's snack order. I'd spent the last year in Barcelona working as a freelance architectural photographer. Old churches, narrow balconies, sun on stone walls, couples kissing in plazas like they had invented the concept. I told everyone it was the opportunity of a lifetime. That was true. It was also true that I took the contract because staying in Chicago meant admitting I had fallen in love with my best friend and had no idea what to do with it. Sadie was 28, a children's book illustrator with wild, honey brown curls, paint under her fingernails, and a laugh that had gotten me through my father's funeral, 2 career failures, and 1 regrettable phase where I thought linen pants made me look European. They did not. For 12 years, we had been each other's emergency contact, movie date, wedding plus one, apartment painting assistant, and bad decision prevention committee. Everyone thought we were together. We corrected them. Then, eventually, we stopped correcting them and just said, it's complicated, which is what cowards say when the truth is sitting right there, wearing a cardigan, and telling you your hair looks stupid. When I left for Barcelona, Sadie drove me to O'Hare at 5 in the morning. She wore sunglasses even though the sun wasn't up. She made jokes the whole way. At the curb, she hugged me for exactly 3 seconds too long. Don't come back with a Spanish girlfriend, she said into my shoulder. I laughed because I was an idiot. Why, you jealous? She pulled back smiling like I'd missed a door that had been open. Just allergic to smug happiness. Then she got in her car and drove away before I could say anything brave. A year passed. We video called every Sunday. She showed me sketches. I showed her rooftops. She mailed me peanut butter because apparently Spain had personally offended her with its peanut butter selection. I mailed her a tiny ceramic orange from Valencia, and she said it was ugly enough to be emotionally significant. But there were changes. Small ones. She stopped telling me about dates. I stopped asking. Sometimes our calls would go quiet, and instead of filling the silence, we'd just look at each other. Her face in blue laptop light, my rented apartment behind me, both of us smiling at nothing. 3 weeks before my contract ended, my final client canceled. I could have stayed, wandered beaches, acted like I was a man who enjoyed his own company. Instead, I changed my flight. I told no one, not even Sadie, especially not Sadie, because I had built the surprise in my head like a movie scene. I'd knock, she'd open the door, she'd scream. I'd say something smooth like, "Miss me?" She'd roll her eyes, we'd laugh. I'd give her the cinnamon rolls. Then maybe, if the universe had mercy and my courage showed up on time, I'd tell her the truth, that I hadn't left because I wanted distance from Chicago. I'd left because every time she fell asleep on my couch, I wanted to brush hair off her cheek and kiss her awake. So there I was at 8:17 in the morning, standing outside apartment 3B with a suitcase, a backpack, and a heart doing the kind of dramatic nonsense I usually made fun of in other people. The hallway smelled like lemon cleaner and someone's toast. Sun poured through the stairwell window. Somewhere downstairs, a dog barked twice and gave up. I knocked. Inside, I heard quick footsteps, then a thud. Then Sadie yelled, 1 second. If you're selling religion, I already have anxiety. I grinned despite myself. The deadbolt turned. The door swung open. She was barefoot, wearing denim shorts and my old gray Northwestern sweatshirt, the one I'd accused her of stealing in 2019, and she'd accused me of abandoning emotionally. Her hair was piled on top of her head with a pencil stuck through it. There was a smear of blue paint on her wrist. She looked annoyed for half a second. Then she saw me. The annoyance vanished. Her mouth parted. The color drained from her face and came back all at once. Caleb. Surprise, I said, and lifted the paper bag. I brought... That was as far as I got. The mug slipped from her hand, it hit the mat, bounced once, and rolled against my shoe without breaking. Sadie crossed the threshold, grabbed me, and kissed me. The cinnamon rolls crinkled between us. My suitcase tipped over. Someone's door opened down the hall, then immediately shut again, which was fair. If I had seen that kiss from the outside, I also would have retreated and minded my own business with religious discipline. Her lips were warm. Her fingers tightened in my jacket. She made a tiny sound against my mouth that nearly ended my ability to stand upright. And then, just as suddenly, she pulled back. We stood there breathing hard, foreheads almost touching. Her eyes were wide. Mine probably looked like I'd just been struck by a very attractive vehicle. I'm sorry, she whispered. I blinked. For the mug? A laugh escaped her, shaky and small. For ambushing you with my face. I've had worse welcomes. Caleb. What? I'm being emotionally flexible. She stepped back, pressing 2 fingers to her lips like she couldn't believe what they'd done without her permission. But that was the thing. It hadn't felt accidental. It had felt like a decision that had been waiting at the door longer than I had. You're early, she said. 3 weeks. You didn't tell me. That was the surprise portion of the program. She looked me up and down, and for a second I saw everything I'd missed. Her humor, her softness, the way she tried to look unimpressed while her eyes gave her away completely. You look, she began, exhausted, pale, like international travel chewed me up. Like home, she said. The hallway got quiet. There are moments in life when a person hands you the truth so gently you almost don't recognize its weight. I swallowed. Sadie. She looked behind her into the apartment, then back at me. Something changed in her face. Not regret exactly. Fear. Come in, she said. I picked up the mug, righted my suitcase, and followed her inside. Her apartment was exactly Sadie and not at all how I remembered it. Plants crowded the windowsills, sketches were taped to the walls. There was a half-finished illustration on her dining table of a little fox standing under a street lamp, holding an umbrella over a bird. My chest tightened. On the kitchen counter beside 2 untouched cups of coffee sat a cream-colored envelope. My name was written across it in her handwriting. Caleb. Not Turner, not idiot, not European linen victim. Just Caleb. Sadie saw me notice it. She moved too fast, stepping between me and the counter, which naturally made me look harder. The envelope wasn't sealed. A folded sheet of paper peeked from the top. And on the exposed line, in dark blue ink, I read 7 words before she slid her hand over them. I can't keep pretending I don't love you. She went completely still. So did I. The kiss had knocked the air out of me. But that sentence stopped the whole room. For a long second, neither of us moved. Sadie's palm stayed flat over the letter like she could smother the sentence back into the paper. I stood 2 feet away, jet-lagged, cinnamon-scented, and suddenly more awake than I had been in a year. I didn't see that, I said. Sadie stared at me. Then she glanced pointedly at my face, which I'm sure had gone through every human expression except calm. You are an architectural photographer, she said. Your entire job is seeing things. Fine, I saw it. Her eyes squeezed shut. Fantastic. But only the first line. That is the worst line to only see. I disagree. She opened one eye. I took a careful step closer. It was a pretty strong opening. Caleb. What? If this is a formal review, I'd say it grabbed the reader immediately. She groaned and covered her face with both hands. And there she was, my Sadie. Mortified and brilliant, standing in a sunlit kitchen with blue paint on her wrist, wearing my sweatshirt like it still belonged to both of us. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to touch her. I wanted to say every brave thing I'd packed and unpacked in my head for 12 months. Instead, I set the paper bag on the counter and said softly, "Was that for me?" She lowered her hands. The answer was all over her face. "I was going to mail it," she admitted. "When?" "Today." My heart did something foolish and painful. "Today?" She nodded, looking past my shoulder. "I made a deal with myself. If I couldn't say it while you were gone, I'd write it. And if I couldn't send it, then I had to stop waiting." The word landed between us. Waiting. For me? For courage? For the version of us that existed in every almost touch? Every goodbye hug? Every Sunday video call where neither of us wanted to hang up first? I leaned back against the counter because my knees were not being fully professional. "What does stop waiting mean?" I asked. Sadie wrapped her arms around herself. "It means I was going to let you go." The kitchen seemed to tilt. Outside, traffic hissed along the street. Somewhere in the building, a child laughed. Normal life kept going, which felt rude. I stared at her. "You were going to let me go without ever telling me?" "I was telling you, in the letter, that I wasn't here to read. You were supposed to be in Spain. I took an early flight. I noticed due to the kissing." Despite everything, I laughed. So did she. It broke the tension just enough for both of us to breathe. Then she looked down, suddenly shy. "I shouldn't have done that." "The kiss?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because you came here expecting cinnamon rolls and a normal best friend reunion, and I attacked you like a woman in a 19th century train station. I brought cinnamon rolls because I was hoping to confess my love to you. So honestly, the tone matched." Sadie froze. Her eyes lifted to mine. "What?" There it was. No taking it back. No ocean to hide behind. No clever joke wide enough to stand in. I pushed a hand through my hair. That came out less elegantly than planned. "You were going to confess your love to me?" "Yes." "With pastries?" "I know my strengths." She stared at me, and then her mouth trembled. Not with laughter this time, with something softer. "You love me?" The question almost broke me. Not because it was hard to answer, but because she looked as if she truly didn't know. As if I hadn't loved her in every practical, ridiculous, devoted way a person could love another person. As if I hadn't memorized how she took her coffee. As if I hadn't flown across an ocean with a bag of cinnamon rolls because the airport bakery opened at dawn and she loved them more than dignity. I stepped closer. She didn't move away. "I love you," I said. "I'm in love with you, Sadie. I have been for so long I don't even know where friendship ended and the rest began." Her breath caught. "And I left," I continued, voice roughening, "because I was scared I'd ruin us. I thought distance would make it smaller, more manageable." "Did it?" "No." I smiled faintly. "It made me a man who took pictures of beautiful buildings and then wished you were standing in front of every single one." Her eyes filled. "Oh, Caleb." I reached for her hand slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Her fingers slid into mine like they had been practicing in secret. "I tried dating," she confessed. Something hot and uncomfortable flashed through me, but I held still. She gave me a look. "Don't make that face." "What face?" "The tragic noble man face. I went on 2 dates. One guy talked for 40 minutes about cold plunge therapy. The other asked if illustrating children's books was basically doodling. May they both step on wet socks. That's aggressive. I'm jet-lagged and newly possessive." Her smile appeared slow and dangerous. "Newly?" I rubbed my thumb over her knuckles. "Fine. Historically possessive, but quietly and with excellent manners." She stepped closer. "Your manners were not excellent when you glared at that bartender on my 26th birthday. He called you sweetheart. You call me sweetheart." "Not like he did." Her smile softened. "No, Not like you do. The air changed again. She was close enough now that I could see the tiny gold flecks in her brown eyes. Close enough to smell coffee and vanilla soap and Sadie, that impossible familiar thing that had haunted every rented room I'd slept in abroad. Her free hand rose and touched the collar of my jacket. "I missed you," she whispered. I closed my eyes for half a second. "I missed you so much it embarrassed me." "Good." My eyes opened. "Good? I wanted you a little embarrassed. That's the romance you're offering. I contain multitudes." I laughed under my breath, and then she leaned in, not like before, not from shock or impulse, but slowly, asking, choosing. I met her halfway. The second kiss was quieter. No dropped mugs, no tipped suitcases, no stunned neighbor pretending not to eavesdrop. Just Sadie's fingers curling into my shirt and my hand finding her waist. Just the small, stunned relief of finally touching someone the way you'd imagined for years, and discovering imagination had not been generous enough. She tasted like coffee. She fit against me like an answer. When we broke apart, she stayed close, forehead pressed to my chin. "I wrote 4 pages," she murmured. "Of the letter?" "Mm-hmm. Any chance I can read it?" She hesitated. "Maybe someday." "I showed up in person. That feels like I earned at least page 2. Page 2 is embarrassing. I crossed an ocean. You took a commercial flight. Internationally." She laughed into my chest and I wrapped both arms around her. For the first time since I'd left Chicago, something inside me stopped bracing. We stood like that in her kitchen until the coffee went cold. Then Sadie pulled back just enough to look at me. "So what now?" she asked. It was a terrifying question. Also, the only one that mattered. I brushed a curl away from her cheek, finally doing the thing I'd wanted to do for years. "Now," I said, "I take you to breakfast." Her eyebrows rose. "That's your plan?" "It's part 1. I'm starving, in love, and operating on airplane pretzels." "And after breakfast?" "After breakfast, we figure out how to stop being cowards." She considered this, then took the cinnamon roll bag and tucked it under one arm. With her other hand, she kept hold of mine. "Okay," she said, "but for the record, if this goes badly, I'm keeping your sweatshirt." I smiled. "Sadie, sweetheart," I said, squeezing her hand, "if this goes badly, that sweatshirt is going to be the least of what you keep." Breakfast with Sadie had always been dangerous. Not romantically, at least not officially. But emotionally? Absolutely. Sadie ordered like a woman preparing for a siege. Pancakes, eggs, hash browns, a side of fruit she would ignore, and black coffee she'd ruin with enough cream to qualify as dessert. Then she'd steal whatever I ordered and claim it tasted better because it belonged to me. That morning we walked to Miller's on Damen, hand in hand. It should have felt strange. It didn't. That was the terrifying part. Her fingers between mine felt less like a beginning than a correction. Chicago was loud and bright around us. Buses sighed at curbs, a cyclist yelled at a taxi. The wind lifted Sadie's curls, and without thinking, I reached over and tucked one behind her ear. She stopped walking. "What?" I asked. "You just did that." "I did." "You've never done that before." "I have wanted to do that approximately 9,000 times." Her mouth curved. "Only 9,000?" I rounded down to seem stable. She laughed, and I felt it in my ribs like music. At Miller's, the hostess took one look at our joined hands and said, "Finally." Sadie went pink. I pointed at the woman. "Unprofessional." "Sweetie," the hostess said, grabbing menus, "I've been seating you two for 6 years. This is a community victory." Sadie hid behind her menu the moment we reached our booth. "I forgot everyone in this neighborhood has been emotionally invested," she muttered. "Forgot?" "The dry cleaner asked if I was your husband in 2021. You told him yes because he gave you a discount. He respected commitment." She lowered the menu just enough for me to see her eyes. "You liked pretending." I could have joked. It would have been easy. Instead, I looked at her across the scarred little table, sunlight striping her cheek, and answered honestly. "Yeah," I said. "I did." Her expression changed. That was new too. The not running from every soft thing. Our waitress appeared. Sadie ordered enough food for a small committee. I ordered an omelet and toast. And cinnamon rolls? The waitress asked, nodding at the airport bag between us. Sadie clutched it closer. Private property. She's feral before noon, I explained. Only about pastry and emotional avoidance, Sadie said. The waitress smiled and left. For a minute, we just looked at each other. That sounds boring if you've never spent a year wanting to look at someone without a screen between you. But I had. I'd memorized the lag in our calls, the way her image froze sometimes with her mouth half open, the weird blue glow of my laptop reflecting in her glasses. Now she was in front of me. Real. Mine? Not yet. Maybe soon. Maybe if I didn't ruin it by being terrified. Sadie nudged my ankle under the table. You're thinking too loudly. I'm thinking I don't know how to do this. Breakfast? You've seen me handle pancakes. Barely. This, I said, gesturing between us. Us. Being not just us, but more. She drew a line through condensation on her water glass. Me neither. That honesty settled me. I keep expecting someone to come in and announce we're being ridiculous, she admitted, like there's a friendship referee with a whistle. If there is, they're late. We already kissed twice. Her eyes flicked to my mouth. I noticed. She noticed me noticing. Her cheeks flushed again, but she didn't look away. 3 times, actually. I leaned forward. When was the third? In the hallway after the first one, before I pulled away, there was a second small kiss. That was part of the first kiss. No, it had its own emotional arc, I grinned. You're counting bonus kisses now? I'm an illustrator. Details matter. The food came, saving neither of us. Sadie poured syrup on her pancakes with the concentration of a scientist. I watched her and felt something so sharp and tender it almost hurt. What? She asked, mouth already full. I love you. She froze with her fork halfway to her plate. I hadn't planned to say it again. It simply appeared, apparently done waiting. Sadie swallowed. You can't just say that while I'm eating pancakes. Why not? Because I will associate maple syrup with emotional vulnerability forever. Good. Then breakfast can be our thing. Her smile wobbled. Caleb. What? Say it again. All the teasing went out of me. I reached across the table, palm up. She placed her hand in mine immediately. I love you, I said, slower this time. Not as a panic response, not because you kissed me, not because I'm jet-lagged. I love you in the ordinary ways and the terrifying ones. I love you when you steal my fries. I love you when you send me 6 voice notes about one bad font. I love you when you're brave, and I love you when you're hiding. Her eyes shone. And, I added because she looked dangerously close to crying, I love you despite the fact that you once said my passport photo made me look like a haunted substitute teacher. A laugh broke out of her, watery and perfect. It did. I was going through a lot. You were 24. Exactly. She squeezed my hand, then lifted it and kissed my knuckles, right there in Miller's. The gesture was small, almost casual. It destroyed me. I love you too, she said. I think I loved you before I knew what to call it. And then I knew, and I pretended I didn't, because if I lost you, you won't. Her expression sharpened. Don't promise that like it's simple. I nodded, sobering. Okay, I need you to understand something. She kept my hand but looked down at our joined fingers. You leaving hurt. The words hit exactly where they should have. I know. No, I mean, I was proud of you. I wanted you to go. I wanted you to have the whole world. Her thumb brushed over mine. But part of me kept thinking, if he can leave that easily, maybe I'm not the reason he stays. I sat back like she'd put a hand to my chest and pushed. I didn't leave easily, I said. Her gaze lifted. I cried in an airport bathroom after security. Sadie blinked. You did? Very quietly, with dignity. There's no dignified airport bathroom crying. Fine, I looked like a man being haunted by a Cinnabon. Her lips twitched, but she waited. I thought leaving was the honorable choice, I said, because I wanted you so much it scared me. I thought if I stayed, I'd either confess and lose you or say nothing and become bitter. So I took the job and told myself it was brave. And was it? No. I rubbed my thumb across her wrist. Coming back was. She stared at me for a long moment, then slid out of her side of the booth. For one insane second, I thought she was leaving. Instead, she came around to my side and sat beside me. Close. Her thigh pressed against mine. Her shoulder tucked under my arm as naturally as breath. The diner kept moving around us, forks clinking, coffee pouring, someone complaining about eggs. But our little vinyl booth became its own quiet country. Sadie leaned her head against my shoulder. I'm still mad at you a little. You should be. But I'm also very happy. I'm hoping to encourage that one. She tilted her face up. Start now. So I kissed her in the booth at Miller's, with syrup on the table and my omelet going cold, and at least one elderly woman openly applauding two booths over. Sadie laughed into my mouth, and I smiled against hers, and for once the whole world seemed to be on our side. When we finally pulled apart, her phone buzzed on the table. She ignored it. It buzzed again, then again. I glanced down before I could stop myself. A calendar alert lit the screen. Final portfolio review. Seattle contract. 2 p.m. Sadie saw it at the same time. Her body went still against mine. Seattle? I asked carefully. She closed her eyes, and just like that, the ocean I'd crossed didn't feel so far away anymore. Sadie reached for her phone like it had betrayed her personally. It's not what it looks like, she said. I looked at the words again. Final portfolio review. Seattle contract. Because it looks like Seattle. It is, geographically that. I waited. She blew out a breath and pushed her plate away. A small children's publisher out there is looking for an in-house illustrator. 6-month contract. Maybe longer if it works. The sentence should have been harmless. Good, even. Sadie deserved publishers fighting over her. She deserved studios with big windows and people who understood that drawing a dragon in a raincoat was a serious artistic endeavor. But after 12 months of missing her across an ocean, the word longer hit like a bruise. When did you apply? I asked. She stared at the table. 2 months ago. 2 months ago, I had been in Barcelona photographing a restored theater and telling her on video call that I might extend my contract if another client came through. I remembered her smile that day, too bright, too careful. You thought I wasn't coming back, I said. I thought you were building a life there. I was working. You looked happy. I was trying to look happy for you. She laughed once, but it hurt. That is so stupidly us. The waitress refilled our coffee and fled, sensing emotional weather. Sadie wrapped both hands around her mug. I didn't apply because of you, not only because of you, it's a good opportunity. I know. But yes, she admitted. Part of me thought maybe I needed to make a life that didn't revolve around waiting for your name to pop up on my screen every Sunday. I deserved that. Still, it cut. I looked at her beside me in the booth, close enough that her knees still touched mine, and realized how easy it would be to make this about fear. About timing, about another city turning into another excuse. So I didn't. What do you want? I asked. She glanced at me warily. That is a dangerous question before noon. I mean it. I don't know. Her voice dropped. This morning I knew. I was going to mail the letter, take the interview, and try to become the kind of woman who doesn't cry over a man in a different time zone. And now you're here. She looked at me then, open and frustrated and beautiful enough to make me forget the entire West Coast existed. Now you're holding my hand under the table, and you told me you love me, and I'm mad because it's everything I wanted at the exact moment I was trying to stop wanting it. I slid my hand over hers. Don't stop. Her breath caught. Wanting it? She whispered. Wanting me. I swallowed. Wanting us? Wanting Seattle too, if you want it. I don't want to be another reason you make yourself smaller. Her eyes searched mine. That sounds very mature, she said. I'm suspicious. I practiced during the flight. Between airport pretzels and one emotional spiral over Nebraska. A reluctant smile touched her mouth. Then she leaned her forehead against my shoulder. I don't want to lose this on the same day I got it. I turned slightly and pressed a kiss into her hair. You didn't get it today, I said. You named it today. She went still. I hadn't known I believed that until I said it. But it was true. Whatever we were had not been born in her doorway or at this diner. It had lived in borrowed sweatshirts and late-night phone calls in the way she always knew when I was pretending to be fine. Sadie lifted her head. You say things like that and expect me to keep functioning? No, I'm hoping to become a major inconvenience. Her smile finally reached her eyes. We left Miller's with half our food in boxes and the cinnamon roll still untouched because Sadie claimed airport pastry required a ceremonial setting. On the walk back, she didn't let go of my hand. Neither did I. At a crosswalk, she leaned into my side while we waited for the light. Her curls brushed my jaw. I looked down at her and had the sudden, ridiculous thought that I would follow this woman anywhere. Seattle, Spain, the aisle of a grocery store while she debated cereal for 20 minutes. She caught me looking. What? I'm thinking about kissing you. We're at a crosswalk. I'm aware. There are children. They should learn about commitment. She laughed, but when the signal changed, she didn't move right away. Instead, she tugged me down by the front of my jacket and kissed me in the middle of the morning, with traffic idling and some guy on a bike saying, "Let's go, rom-com." Sadie pulled back, cheeks pink. Community victory? Citywide, apparently. Back at her apartment, the letter still sat on the counter. My suitcase still lay by the door. The mug still rested on the table, washed now, as if we were pretending it hadn't been a casualty of passion. Sadie checked the time. I have 40 minutes before the review. Do you want me to go? Her answer came too fast. No. That one word settled something in me. Then I'll stay. She nodded, then became suddenly busy gathering her portfolio pages, smoothing them, rearranging them back. I watched her hands shake. Hey, I said, I'm fine. You're alphabetizing foxes. She looked down. They have names. Of course they do. This one is Benedict. Benedict looks anxious. Benedict has a complicated inner life. I came up behind her slowly and set my hands on her shoulders. Sadie. She exhaled like she'd been waiting for permission. Her body softened back against me just a little. I ran my thumbs along the tense line of her shoulders, careful, steady. You are brilliant, I said near her ear. Not because Seattle noticed. Not because a publisher approves, because you make lonely kids feel like the world has secret doors. Her hand came up and covered mine. You kept my postcards, she said quietly. All of them. I drew those for you. I know. No. She turned in my arms. I mean, I told myself they were jokes, little updates. But really, I wanted to put something in your apartment that came from me. My chest tightened. You did. She touched the center of my shirt right over my heart. Did I? I covered her hand. Everywhere. The portfolio review alarm chimed again, softer this time. Neither of us moved. Then Sadie rose onto her toes and kissed me. Slow at first, then deeper, like she was making herself a promise, and using my mouth to seal it. When she pulled away, her eyes were bright but determined. Okay, she said, I'm going to do this interview. Good. And I'm not deciding anything out of fear. Even better. And afterward, she bit her lip. Afterward, you and I are going to go on an actual date. I smiled. Was breakfast not a date? Breakfast was a mutual emotional ambush with hash browns. Fair. I mean a real date. Tonight. No hiding behind best friend habits. No pretending. You ask me properly. I say yes dramatically. Maybe I wear lipstick. My heart lifted so fast it almost hurt. I stepped back, gave a small, ridiculous bow, and held out my hand. Sadie Whitlock, I said, will you go on a date with me tonight? She placed her hand in mine, eyes shining. Yes, Caleb Turner, she said, dramatically, recklessly, and with lipstick. Her laptop rang, the Seattle call. Sadie squeezed my hand once, then sat down in front of the screen. I moved to the couch, close enough that she could see me if she looked over. And she did. Right before answering, she glanced back at me. Not asking me to save her, asking me to stay. So I stayed. Sadie's interview lasted 47 minutes. I know because I counted every one of them from her couch, pretending not to listen and failing completely. She was nervous for the first 5. Then they asked about Benedict, the anxious fox, and Sadie lit up. That was the thing about her. She could doubt herself right up until somebody gave her a reason to talk about the work. Then she became impossible not to believe in. She explained color palettes and lonely children, and how small creatures in big worlds deserved brave endings. At one point, she glanced back at me. I smiled. She smiled too, quick and secret, then turned back to the screen. By the time she ended the call, I already knew. "They loved you," I said. She shut the laptop and sat very still. "They offered me the contract." My stomach dropped and lifted at the same time. "Sadie, that's incredible." "It starts in 4 weeks." 4 weeks. After a year away from her, it felt like a cruel joke. But her face wasn't asking me to panic. It was asking me to be honest. So I crossed the room, crouched in front of her chair, and took both her hands. "What do you want?" I asked again. She looked down at our fingers. "I want to say yes." I nodded once, even though it hurt. "Then say yes." Her eyes filled. "Caleb, I mean it." My voice wasn't perfectly steady, but it was mine. "I love you, not the convenient version of you. Not the version that stays in Chicago so I don't have to be scared. You, the woman who gets offered contracts because she makes anxious foxes feel like heroes." A tear slipped down her cheek. I wiped it with my thumb. "But I also want you to know," I said. "I'm done using distance as an excuse. If you go to Seattle, I visit. You visit, we call, we plan. We choose each other on purpose." She searched my face. "And if it turns into longer?" "Then we figure out longer." "That easy?" "No." I smiled. "But I'm hoping we're finally done only doing easy things." Sadie leaned forward and kissed me. It was not a goodbye kiss. That mattered. It was frightened and tender, and full of yes. That night, we went on our first official date. Sadie wore red lipstick. I wore the only shirt in my suitcase that didn't look like I'd slept upright over the Atlantic, which was technically true. I picked her up at her own apartment door because she insisted on proper romantic structure. And when she opened it, she looked so beautiful, I forgot the speech I had prepared. She tilted her head. "You're supposed to say something charming." I had something. It died. "Tragic." "Sadie Whitlock, you look devastating." Her smile softened. "Recovered nicely." We went to a tiny Italian restaurant with candles on the tables and terrible parking. We ordered too much pasta. She got sauce on her wrist, exactly where the blue paint had been that morning, and I reached across the table to wipe it away with my napkin. She watched me do it. "What?" I asked. "I'm trying to get used to being touched by you like this." "Good or bad?" "Good." Her voice lowered. "So good it makes me want to cry a little, which is inconvenient in public." I set the napkin down and took her hand. "We can go slow." She squeezed my fingers. "I don't want to go slow because I'm unsure. I want to go slow because I want to notice everything." So we did. We noticed everything. The first walk home as something more than friends. The first time she slipped her hand into my back pocket and then blushed like she hadn't meant to be bold. The first kiss outside her building that started sweet and ended with my forehead against the brick because I needed a second to remember how doors worked. 4 weeks later, I helped her pack for Seattle. It was awful. It was also strangely beautiful. Sadie labeled boxes with things like books, kitchen, and emotionally important nonsense. I found my old sweatshirt in the last category. "Excuse me," I said. "That is a historic textile." She folded it carefully. "It's coming with me." "So am I said. She turned. "For the first week," I clarified. "If you want, I can work from anywhere for a few days. I'll help you settle in, assemble furniture badly, carry heavy things with masculine overconfidence." Her face did that soft, dangerous thing again. "You'd come?" "Sadie, I came home early from another continent because I missed your face. Seattle is not going to scare me." She crossed the room and wrapped her arms around my waist. I love you, she said into my chest. I kissed the top of her head. I know. She pinched my side. Ow, I love you too. Better. Seattle was gray and green and smelled like rain even when the sun came out. Her new apartment had a view of a brick wall and one heroic slice of water if you leaned dangerously out the kitchen window. I built her bookshelf incorrectly twice. She made coffee on the floor because we hadn't unpacked mugs. On my last night before flying back to Chicago, we ate takeout noodles from cartons and sat shoulder to shoulder against the couch. I hate tomorrow, she said. Me too. But I don't hate us. I turned to her. Neither do I. She looked scared, but not uncertain. There was a difference. I was learning that. We choose each other? She asked. On purpose, I said. Then she kissed me under the cheap paper lantern we'd hung crookedly in her living room, and the room felt less temporary. 6 months later, Sadie's contract became permanent. By then, I had photographed 3 buildings in Seattle, 2 in Portland, and 1 hotel lobby in Vancouver because apparently love had made me excellent at finding work near her zip code. We were still long distance sometimes. Sometimes it was hard. Sometimes flights got delayed, calls were missed, and one of us got quiet because old fears knew the way back. But we got better at opening the door before fear knocked too loudly. By the following spring, I gave up my Chicago lease and moved into a Seattle apartment with too many plants, 1 anxious fox print framed over the desk, and Sadie's red lipstick on a mug that had somehow survived the move. No grand speech, no dramatic ultimatum. Just 2 keys on the same ring. One sunny morning, almost exactly a year after I surprised her, I woke to find Sadie barefoot in the kitchen, wearing my gray sweatshirt and sketching at the counter. The window was open. Coffee steamed beside her. Her curls were a disaster. She looked up and smiled. Morning, best friend, she said. I came up behind her, wrapped my arms around her waist, and kissed the side of her neck. Morning, girlfriend. She leaned back against me. Still sounds weird. Good weird? She turned in my arms and touched my face like she was still a little amazed I was real. The best weird. Then she rose onto her toes and kissed me, just like she had at her door that first morning, only this time, I was ready. And this time, I wasn't going anywhere. What would you have done if you flew home early to surprise your best friend and they greeted you with a kiss instead of a hug? Have you ever experienced something similar? Tell me your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.